Madonna's eagerly awaited 12th studio album MDNA was released in early 2012. It was the first record of her 50s and her first on Interscope after leaving Warner Music, her label of 25 years. And whilst the album has many admirers, and it certainly does have its moments, the general consensus among fans is that MDNA marked a sea change in Madonna's output. And now, years later, after the dust has long settled on the era, fans' appraisal of the record tends not to be too favourable. Now, before we progress any further, I just want to stress that this video is not a takedown of Madge in any way. In my humble opinion, Madonna is still the queen of pop. Her achievements over the last 4 decades are nothing short of astonishing. Her impact on popular culture is immeasurable, and her strike rate when it comes to hit singles and hit albums is unparalleled. I've just long been curious as to why MDNA, unlike previous projects, didn't quite hit the mark. What was Madonna's life like at the time, and what other factors were at play? Let's find out. As we all know, pop radio refuses to play records by artists over a certain age, even if the music artist in question is Madonna. Pop is a youth medium, and virtually no music artists manage to stay current and relevant into their 50s. Cher managed it for a short while with Believe, but the music industry was a different place back then, and she's kind of the exception to the rule. When Madonna released MDNA, it had been the longest gap between studio albums of her whole career, almost 4 years since Hard Candy, although she had released a retrospective collection in 2009. You can't really criticise Madonna for wanting to take a breather from music. Since 1982, she's been a music-making machine with virtually no let-up. If anyone deserves to take a breather and go and work on other projects, it's Madonna. In the interim, whilst Madonna had been away, Lady Gaga had brought the most credible challenge of Madonna's whole career to the Queen of Pop throne. Gaga had also brought electronic dance music into the mainstream, even in the US. She'd had huge hits at the time, including Just Dance, Poker Face, Bad Romance and Born This Way. Lady Gaga especially had incorporated the best elements of Madonna's career into her own work and made them her own. For the first time, somebody was able to play Madonna at her own game. At the time, Rihanna also was having some of the biggest hits of her career, with EDM bangers such as Only Girl in the World and S&M. And just months before MDNA's release, We Found Love, produced by Calvin Harris, became a huge global smash, going straight to the top of the charts on both sides of the Atlantic. Katy Perry had also turned to EDM light with California Girls. Even Beyonce had started to dabble in electropop with Run the World, a collaboration with Diplo. And EDM DJs like David Guetta and Calvin Harris were dominating the charts in the early 10s. And this was the music landscape MDNA would be released into. Madonna is famous for shape-shifting continuously and dabbling in different sounds throughout her lengthy career. There was the hip-hop, house, R&B sound of Erotica, the electronica trance of Ray of Light, the acid funk folk stylings of Music, to name just a few. Madonna always somehow made those genres her own, and the final product always felt like a Madonna record. She was never subsumed by the musical style she had chosen. Her various reinventions marked her out as a trendsetter in the music industry, which others then invariably followed. And this is where MDNA differed. It sounded pretty much the same as all the other EDM music of the early 10s. And for arguably the first time ever, Madonna made a record which sounded, well, generic. And it just didn't really show any musical progression. Whilst lyrics for pop dance music hardly requires Shakespearean writing talent, many felt that Madonna's lyrics on MDNA were overly simplistic. She continued this style on from her last 2 albums, Confessions and Hard Candy, so at this stage the overly simplistic lyrical style was starting to grate. Pop dance music needs to be immediate and accessible, and of course the melody and music takes precedence over the lyric, but that doesn't mean the lyrics can't still be clever, witty and somewhat original. In saying that, the lyrics on MDNA do at least give the album some personality. It's telling that Madonna hasn't worked with any of the collaborators from the MDNA album again. The last 2 songs, Masterpiece and Falling Free, were widely commended, but they kind of sound like they're from a whole nother album. The album's title, which Madonna claimed to be a triple entendre, was also problematic. Of course, naming a record MDNA had certain connotations. MDMA are the initials for the chemical formula for ecstasy, which is of course a key part of EDM and club culture. And it's hard to imagine that Madonna was oblivious to the fact that her EDM inspired album's name referenced the Class A drug. Then there was also that ill-judged surprise appearance at Florida's Ultra Music Festival in 2011, when Madge came on stage to introduce Avicii and, in a desperate bid to connect with a younger audience, asked them how many people in the crowd have seen Molly, which of course is slang for MDNA. Understandably, this also drew widespread criticism from many within the dance community, and she was heavily criticised by anti-drug campaigners. And the Girl Gone Wild video, which uses guns and cigarettes as props and featured masturbation and floor humping, it all just felt a little tired, and hadn't she already done all this before? Gimme All Your Lovin', the lead single from the record, became her 38th top 10 hit on the Billboard chart, and to date her last one. It stalled at number 37 in the UK, her worst charting lead single since Everybody in 1982, and one of her lowest charting singles ever. The low position was partly due to 2 days of download sales being discounted from the final tally because of a promotional offer where fans were given a free download of the song if they pre-ordered the album. A demo of the track leaked the previous November, which probably didn't help things either. When the album was released on the 23rd of March 2012, it topped the charts in most countries around the world, including the US, the UK, Australia, Canada and Spain. And although MDNA's first week US sales of 359,000 was Madonna's highest since Music, half of that figure came from an album tour bundle, a byproduct of her major new deal with Live Nation. When fans bought certain ticket packages for the MDNA concert, they also got the album. But after 1 week it dropped to number 8, and after 13 weeks it was out of the Billboard 200 album chart altogether. MDNA was also the first album Madonna released under a new 3-album contract with Interscope and a touring deal with Live Nation. She had left Warner after spending 25 years at the label. Jimmy Iovine, head of Interscope, talked about the signing at the time. I heard the record before we made the deal and I was really honoured that she wanted to be on Interscope. The opportunity was there and the people at Live Nation were really supportive. Nowadays everyone goes label shopping. Madonna was like, I want to work with Interscope, so I said, yes, great. Madonna has always been the one who's called the shots in her own career. There's never been some Svengali manager or record company type in the background, so it wouldn't make sense to pin the blame on some A&R person from Interscope for the album not working out. Perhaps Interscope thought Madonna was past her prime and she wasn't really a priority for them, or they just weren't a good fit for one another. In 2021 she went back to Warner Music, who owned the rights to her back catalogue. It was widely reported at the time that Madonna wasn't able to focus on the album because she was preoccupied with other projects such as the Material Girl clothing line she was developing with her daughter for Macy's and the launch of her new perfume Truth or Dare. Madonna's main collaborators on the album were the Benessi brothers, who were most famous at the time for writing hits for Chris Brown, French producer Martin Solveig, probably best known for his 2010 hit Hello with Dragonette, and her old collaborator from Ray of Light and Music, William Orbit. William Orbit, just 2 months after the album's release, spoke out on a fan forum about why the album hadn't lived up to expectations. All I will say is that certain thoughts about it that I see expressed online by committed fans such as yourself were blindingly obvious to me from the very get-go, well before the release. But you won't see me exactly jumping up and down with delight over the way that things have panned out. We were very pushed for time. Various pressing commitments that took up the artist's limited time, such as perfume ranges and teen fashion contests and other such endeavours, which are beyond my own limited understanding of pop star agendas. It's hard to be an effective knight when your hands are bound. Madonna was on form and better than ever with her singing and writing and musicality, and was having a great time. We had songs lined up that were breathtaking. In an interview with The Sun a month after MDNA's release, Madonna talked about rehearsals for the then forthcoming MDNA tour. "I hope I have some ideas. The creative well is dry, but I just started rehearsals last week and mostly I have been focusing on music. I do have ideas and I have a lot of work ahead of me. I'm incredibly anxiety ridden about it." In 2020, superstar DJ David Guetta claimed that Madonna refused to work with him after she discovered that he was a Scorpio. In an interview, Guetta revealed that Madonna had expressed an interest in working with him after he won a Grammy in 2011 for remixing her song Revolver. The two met soon thereafter, and as this was in 2011, the year before MDNA was released, we can safely assume that the meeting took place with a view to working on the album that would become MDNA. Guetta said, "She tells me that she loves this remix and she suggests that I produce her next album. I arrive for lunch, we talk about everything, the music, what she wants to do with the album. Super nice, it's just her and me, very relaxed, very cool. We have lunch, it's happening." She then asked me what my star sign was and I told her Scorpio. Suddenly she makes a face and she says to me, "I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to work together. It was a pleasure to know you. Goodbye," he said. So it's safe to say Madonna is not a big fan of the Scorpios. It feels that Madonna was more than aware of MDNA's failings, as there were quite a number of drastic changes made for its follow-up Rebel Heart. She tried new methods of songwriting, such as working with songwriting camps. Throughout her career, Madonna had usually worked with one or two collaborators on each song, and she seemed to have a much stronger message and marketing plan than on MDNA. And how much greatness can come from one person anyway? She was the top of her game for 25 years, and at some point that has to come to an end. Nothing, of course, lasts forever. MDNA was a good album by anyone else's standards, but Madonna isn't just anyone, and that's why we love her. I'd love to see your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my other videos.